Also, further, the declaration of peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan has reaffirmed that President Trump is indeed the president of peace. Last week, he hosted the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan at the White House, where they signed a historic joint declaration for peace after decades of bitter conflict and too many lives lost, a landmark achievement for international diplomacy and an end to violence that only President Trump could deliver. This achievement follows negotiated peace arrangements between Cambodia and Thailand, Israel and Iran, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, India and Pakistan, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Serbia and Kosovo, in addition to the remarkable achievement of the Abraham Accords. President Trump continues to prove that nations across the globe can move beyond long-standing conflicts of the past toward a shared future of peace, prosperity, and success.
The influential Pakistani chief of defense has met with President Trump once and seems to have developed a strong relationship. Do you think that this will lead to more U.S. assistance to Pakistan via an increase in arms sales? And is this being done at the expense of the president's relationship with Modi?
Obviously, we had a experience with Pakistan and India when there was a conflict, one that could have developed into something quite horrible. I was here at the State Department at the time, and there was an immediate concern and immediate movement with the Vice President, the President, and the Secretary of State in addressing the nature of what was happening. Many of you who were in the room in the days afterward, we described the nature of the phone calls, the work that we did to stop the attacks and to then bring the parties together so we could have something that was enduring. And it's a very proud moment and a very good example of what Secretary Rubio is committed to, Vice President Vance in that, of course, case as well. But are the top leaders in this nation involved in stopping that potential catastrophe? I would say that our relationship with both nations is as it has been, which is good, and that is the benefit of having a president who knows everyone, talks to everyone, and that is how we can bring differences together in this case. So it's clear that the diplomats here are committed to both nations. I can tell you also that there has been a U.S.-Pakistan counterterrorism dialogue that was established. At this dialogue in Islamabad, the United States and Pakistan reaffirmed their shared commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations during this latest round of the talks in Islamabad. The United States and Pakistan discussed ways to enhance cooperation to counter terrorist threats, and I think that for the region and for the world, the United States working with both those nations is good news and will promote a future that's beneficial.
When it comes to the summit with Putin, do you anticipate that Ukraine's Zelensky will be invited?
Well, I can tell you a few things the president has said. As I mentioned when I opened, that it was Putin who suggested this meeting. It is something that also my colleague Caroline Levitt discussed a great deal just a little bit ago on her briefing. And I think that that's important to know, that the president is viewing this, as she described, as something that was fact-finding in a way to see exactly what was possible. I do also want to bring to you some of his comments, which you may not have heard, regarding his commitment to our European partners and to Ukraine and President Zelensky. We know at this point, he said that this is really a feel-out meeting. He said, I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, being President Zelensky, and then I'll call them afterwards. And if I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say, we can make a deal. I've seen a poll out of Ukraine, the president said, 88% of the people would like to see a deal made. Lastly, he noted, as he does, the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened by far, the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Putin And I'm going to be telling him, you've got to end this war. You've got to end it. So we know what his agenda is, which is what it's always been. We know what has bothered him, which is the killing of civilians. We know that he has been not happy with President Putin, with his actions and what's happened in Ukraine. We know that he is going to inform President Zelensky and European leaders about what happens at this meeting. And then we will all find out what happened.
First, there is 26 foreign ministers who signed a joint statement calling on Israel to allow unrestricted access to Gaza. The GHF work is not enough by the standard of every organization that works there, and there is no evidence that Hamas actually stealing the food. So considering that, like international figures, whether it's Madonna who's calling on the Pope to visit Gaza before it's too late, why not allowing other ways, including the UN, to help people who are on the precipice of dying, basically, or starving?
Well, I will remind you, and I know you know because of your work, everyone here knows, that situation is rapidly evolving. We've been working from the beginning for a ceasefire, specifically for the reasons you've noted and that we all care about, which is the aid for the people of Gaza. Hamas has been at war with the people of Gaza. We've seen that through their refusal to stop this war. We know that they are the first victims, and our intention is, of course, is to stop that carnage. That's the bottom line. I can tell you that the aid dynamic, there has been more aid that has flowed in. We know that there is an understanding that this dynamic is changing, but even within the midst of this war zone, more food has arrived. I believe the GHF numbers at this point, I was briefed on this morning, is close to 120 million meals. And of course, also as we've discussed, nothing will ever be enough in a war zone. The war zone has to stop. It has to end. So that is our recognition here. Our posture has not changed. Our actions have not changed. And yet the situation is fluid, more so than in recent days. And so I would ask you to recognize that, and we're working within that framework.
The UN and also many of your allies have been asking for an independent commission to investigate the killing of Palestinian journalists in Gaza, who reached now at 247, including 5 of our colleagues who were killed the day before. So why not supporting an independent commission, considering that Israel has failed every time to investigate the killing of journalists or doctors or teachers in Gaza?
Well, I would take issue with your premise here. To say that Israel every time has failed to do that is not true. We know that, again, this is a nation fighting a war with a terrorist group that have always used human shields, have used hospitals, have used schools. It's been just the worst example of the barbarity of human beings, if you can call them that. It's been shocking. For Donald Trump to make the commitment to end this would be a tremendous gift to the entire world, as you know, and that is our commitment. We also we call on our ally and partner Israel to investigate these situations. I do it from this podium, and the United States does it. We expect investigations, and for a sovereign nation to engage in that, and then we'll follow up on. We see what those results are, but they do investigate. That is one of the things that, unlike other dynamics in war, Israel has done that, and they're transparent about it. So I would say that as we are working on all of this to stop, we encourage Israel always, and they do so as one of our, again, stalwart allies. And I think that their background proves that, in fact, look, they are minding their own business on October 7th. They are constantly dealing with those kinds of attacks. This is a chance for everyone to be able to have a future that is different. That's what we're looking for.
How does the president hope to try to get President Putin to abandon this commitment that seems obvious from the battlefield, by day after day advancing?
Let me answer the first question about. First of all, we have nothing else to announce regarding the ambassador's remarks about the increase in sites for GHF. Of course, that would be welcome news, but when we see that we have more, we'll let you know. I'll remind you also that the president's not calling this a negotiation. He is not the one that asked for it. This is what, as I've equated to you before, his remarks were that this is to see what's happening, to see what's possible. Negotiation, I think, is certainly not the right word. How he expects to get to where he gets, I won't have details for you in that regard, but there's a reason why he's the one there and we aren't. He is clearly, the list that I read out to you regarding being the president of peace is an astounding one. Perhaps it's situations around the globe that just didn't interest other people. But for President Trump, everyone matters. He sees these dynamics, which his presence and the power of the United States is able to change, and he knows that. He has many tools in his tool chest. We know, of course, that he had remarked about secondary sanctions on those who are buying Russian oil. That's one thing of many that can happen. We know, of course, of NATO's commitment regarding defensive weapons and helping and assisting Ukraine. There's many things that are moving that should have an impact that President Trump, I don't know what his approach will be. What I do know is that I'm grateful that he's the president, that I'm able to be here, read to you a list of ceasefires and peace agreements, and know that he's meeting with Putin in regard to one of the most outrageous dynamics that we've experienced. I will also remind people that he has met alone with President Zelensky. He has met alone with European leaders. This is a man who is doing everything possible and fairly to get an end to this carnage.
On the Human Rights Report, the State Department has cut down criticism of some countries that have extensive records of human rights abuse, including in El Salvador, where the State Department said there was no credible reports of significant human rights abuses, cutting an entire paragraph from last year's report that mentioned issues such as arbitrary arrests and harsh and life-threatening prison conditions. What is this change based on? Has El Salvador taken any steps to change these issues, or how did the State Department determine that these abuses were no longer taking place?
Well, I'm not going to speak from country to country. This is something that is available. People can go look. Again, Americans, obviously, the reporters here in this room have had it for a little bit of time and have had a chance to take a look at it, which is important. Again, state.gov, and you can search for a human rights report, and you'll get all the countries, et cetera. First thing I want to mention is that every administration in a transition year has to deal with this particular product, this particular report, for the last calendar year to be released by a new administration. And there's always changes. As you might imagine, if someone is the new president, you got a new administration, the American people made a choice, and they clearly are taking over for the previous administration. Each administration, like with President Trump, reflects a value system and an agenda and a vision that convince the American people to vote for them. And in this case, President Trump always, as ever, I should say, was clear and obvious about the nature of what he wanted to achieve, and the American people agreed with him. This report, as a result, because it was also late, and many of you noted that, it was late because we weren't, just like with other administrations, we weren't going to release something compiled and written by the previous administration. It needed to change based on the point of view and the vision of the Trump administration. And so those changes were made. In addition to the fact that one of the things we're proud of, and what you'll also see next year, is the notion of something being readable by people. Something being a reflection overall of what it is that we're dealing with certain nations. So it does not, the restructuring doesn't reflect a change of any U.S. policy when it comes to human rights. It certainly promotes, as does our work, respect for human rights around the globe. It does not reflect on any particular country. We've stopped ranking countries, by the way. People can make their own decisions about what nations are doing. So that is one thing also that is over. We also, I want to mention the notion of how large the report had become in its condemnation of nations and its the detailed listing of certain things. But what I can say is, and I think it's pretty clear, that you can issue reports, you can make them giant, but it depends on what we do. The Trump administration has proven from day one their commitment to human rights around the globe. and to the quality of people's lives. We will have perhaps some, in this case, smaller reports, but I would suggest that you watch the actions that are taken by an administration and that commitment to human rights. In this case, you could have giant reports from the Biden administration as the world began to collapse into war, into conflicts, and it's a reminder. So reports are important. Transparency about our positions are important. That's what these reports will serve. And I can tell you again, for the people who work here at the State Department, these reports do matter, and our actions as a nation also back up the nature of our commitment to human rights.
You said that you urge Israel always to investigate, and they do investigate in some incidents. But I want to go back to Sunday's incidents when an airstrike struck a tent of journalists. 4 of them are my colleagues, killing them. And there is no need for investigation here because the IDF statement was clear that they targeted al-Sharif, my colleague, claiming that he's a leader of a Hamas cell that fires rockets into Israel without providing any proof. And this will add to 238 journalists who died in Gaza in 2 years. 11 of them are my colleagues, 11 of them. And my question is, are you comfortable with all the claims and excuses that Israel made to target those journalists, whether they are my colleagues or the other 200?
Well, what I can tell you, and I think what's been apparent from this podium, is our concern about the loss of any innocent life. We've made that clear. The work of the people in this building is committed to that. And it's every day, every briefing certainly, we have examples of that. It is difficult for you. Some of you are war reporters, and you go into those zones, and I respect that immensely. So I'm not in a position, nor will I discuss my feelings. That's not what I'm here for, whether I'm comfortable or uncomfortable. What I will tell you is that we refer you to Israel for information regarding al-Sharif. Israel has released evidence that Sharif was part of Hamas and was supportive of the Hamas attack on October 7th. They're the ones who have the evidence. They're the ones who can be reached, and will hopefully talk with you and certainly talk with others who reach out to them. I will remind you, and this is, again, as we're dealing with a complicated, horrible situation, is that Hamas historically has had members who are embedded in society, including posing as journalists. It is a horrible thing to do for those of you who are committed to finding information for people, to be in that situation. It's horrible in any war. I think some of us, if not most of us, have met someone who's been injured or know of someone who's been killed, who we've worked with because of a war situation. They are a terrorist organization. They launch rockets from near hospitals. They have bases under hospitals and schools. We've seen this happen over and over again. We've become in some ways inured to the inhumanity of that. And what I can tell you is what this administration is trying to do, is trying to stop it, finally, once and for all.
Can I actually continue with what Tom was asking?
Sure.
You mentioned the human rights report. In the human rights report, the GC is politically biased in the past, and censorship is something that you're taking up. Why is this a human rights abuse in your view? I mean, Secretary Rubio has himself said that the United States is going to monitor social media of people coming to the United States, that they should keep it open. He's revoked visas on account of statements that people have made. Why in this case, in the case of the UK, in the case of Germany, in the case of France, why is this a human rights violation?
Well, I can tell you that we consider freedom of expression to be a foundational component of a functioning democracy. Societies are strengthened by free expression of opinion, and government censorship is intolerable in a free society. Freedom of expression does remain under threat in many parts of the world. As outlined in the 2024 Human Rights Report, governments continue to use censorship, arbitrary or unlawful surveillance, and restrictive laws against disfavored voices, often on political or religious grounds. And no matter really how disagreeable someone's speech may be, criminalizing it or silencing it by force only serves as a catalyst for further hatred, suppression, and polarization. That's why.
A question to you
Yes, sir.
regarding the aid. It's been since the 1st of August, since Envoy Witkoff went in to survey the situation and basically come up with some sort of a conclusion on the aid situation, how you allow more aid in. One, has he submitted yet an assessment on what should be done? And second, I think it was raised just a little while ago here. Is there, a consensus that the centers should be increased, considering that the 4 centers now came to replace 400 centers? So, if you could share with us any new information on this, would appreciate it.
Well, I can tell you that Special Envoy Witkoff and Ambassador Huckabee, they spent hours inside Gaza to assess the situation, as you've noted. Witkoff and Huckabee saw firsthand the incredible and important work of the GHF, what they're doing to provide assistance to civilians. Again, I think we're close to 120 million, was the new number for GHF. During the visit, both were briefed on the regrettable dynamic of UN assistance trucks getting looted upon entry into Gaza. Keep in mind, they went there. The president wanted firsthand report of what was happening. We're all reliant on, and your work is always very good, mostly, about what's happening on the ground. But getting reports in directly from individuals was important to him. I can also tell you, which is I don't think reported in the news, civilians in Gaza thanked the United States for providing assistance to the GHF, which they receive at no cost, obviously. I think we presume that, but to confirm, at no cost, compared to the UN assistance, which, when it is not stolen or looted, is then subject, many of you might know, or perhaps you do, is subject to extortionary taxes by Hamas authorities. President Trump wants to alleviate the suffering of the people in Gaza at the hands of Hamas because he's a humanitarian. We're seeing this in him. Frankly, his commitment to the country exposes that to us as well. And he has committed to remaining involved and helping to facilitate the aid situation to build upon GHF's work and to help Gazans obtain the critical access to food and aid that they need. And
First of all,
thank
as
you.
an Azerbaijani journalist, I want to sincerely thank the United States and its leader to all the efforts they have made to bring peace to the South Caucasus. On August 8 at the White House, the U.S. helped Azerbaijan and Armenia sign a historic peace agreement, and President Ilham Aliyev has even suggested that President Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize for his role in this achievement. Can you please share the State Department's view on this new peace situation in the South Caucasus? Because Russia and Iran have made statements showing they do not support this peace plan, and even some Iranian officials have said that they will try to stop this Trump corridor, Trump route. What will the United States do if Russia or Iran try to block or sabotage this new peace route?
Well, as you, I think, know, I'm not going to speculate on what we may or may not do with certain actions. The world knows to take President Trump seriously. This arrangement, this deal, is important to him. They were at the White House. This matters to this administration. It matters to the world. I can say that some people may not even know because it doesn't get coverage. These two neighbors have been in conflict for decades. I think it's over 35 years now, with countless lives lost and generations scarred. While many have tried, we have to say, the Europeans, the French, and Putin and even Biden, only President Trump was able to successfully bring this these two countries together to agree to this historic peace. So I think what the world knows is that he is committed to long-standing, durable peace between countries, regardless of how long the conflicts have lasted or the hostility has lasted. And that commitment, as we've also seen, he's a realist. It's based in diplomacy, but he'll do what he needs to do to make the most of being the president of the United States and stopping the war.
Regarding the human rights report, for example, Israel has been reduced from last year to this year, 103 pages to 9, for Russia, 101 to 41. And you've mentioned this readability, but some media outlets have claimed that this paints an inadequate picture for some of the countries. So how has the Human Rights Report maintained its mission to educate Americans and the rest of the world that they are getting an accurate picture of these nations?
Well, accuracy should not be considered a part of volume. You can have something very, very accurate and have it be in with fewer words, in fewer pages. It's a matter of the nature of the commentary. This is also about the vision and the point of view, the America First philosophy for the President of the United States. So we went through this a bit with foreign aid. This idea that more foreign aid means more aid. We haven't seen that over the years. The more we give in foreign aid, the more the need increased. If more foreign aid meant it solved a problem, the need for foreign aid would go down. That was never the case. So this is, again, the nature of the suggestion that too much government, giant reports, money that goes out that we can't even really track, there's so much of it, is not a signal of success. It's a signal of some kind of waste, or at least something that could be done better. So it's, I would say, when it comes to judging this, it is a very good first experience, even though, again, it's reduced from the original report that the Biden administration had crafted. That, in my work, of course, also sometimes less is more, and I would say that that's the case here as well.
Thank you.
One quickly on ready-to-use therapeutic food, which is also known as RUTF. As you know, that's the food that is specialized and used to treat malnourished children. Your deputy, Tommy, had mentioned that the US is giving some $93 million to helping supply that therapeutic food to African countries and Haiti. He mentioned that last week. Is the US government doing anything to help the likes of UNICEF and or other aid organizations get more RUTF food into Gaza? Like UNICEF had said that RUTF food, their supplies of it are about to run out in Gaza. We've not been able to get an answer from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation as to whether they even distribute that food for children who need it most in Gaza.
Well, I think the evidence of our structure working and having awards be distributed and announced for, in this case, a particular region, that 93 million, tells you that we are working on those aspects. As I mentioned when we first started the reform regarding our foreign aid, that we weren't getting out of the business of helping. That is at our core as Americans in this country. It's a matter of the efficiency of it and the value of it if it's getting to the people on the ground who need it. We've had problems with how much, when you have an award, actually gets to the people who need it. What is the percentage of that at the local area? So while I won't go into the details, of course, I think you know I won't, about other awards that are discussed or what discussions are being had with NGOs or any other nonprofits that are involved. The fact of the matter is this is a part of what matters to the State Department. And as you know, we've had that one description of that one package of aid. And with everything happening in Gaza and our commitment to it, I look forward to seeing how else we're expanding our assistance there.
The U.S. view on the United Nations, the role of the United Nations. We just last week passed the 180-day mark for the U.S. review of participation in international institutions. Mm-hmm. I assume that the announcement that you have for the end of the briefing will make clear that the U.S. is not at this moment withdrawing from the United Nations. What is the argument or the view for that the U.S. is putting forward at this point in the United Nations, in an America First world, the importance of the United Nations and the U.S. participation in it?
Well, I'm not going to speak directly to reports that have not been released regarding the review of international organizations from the State Department. But what I can tell you, and I think it is clear, is the President cares about NATO, he cares about the UN. He wants them to be as good as they can be. He wants NATO, as an example, to be the deterrent that it was meant to be. And you can only be a deterrent when you can respond to threats, as opposed to being an entity that gets involved in wars or helps people in wars. And that's, I think, the nature of what the President is focused on, about making America great again, the potential of this country. It's not a slogan. It's an action plan. And that's what he sees, the world, his commitment to the world, what he's doing on Friday, his commitment of his cabinet of the Secretary. It's clear what they care about. The United Nations is a part of that. And I'm honored to be mentioned in that context. But I have to say that the president's approach has been very clear about his caring for the country and how the world operates and wanting everything to be the best it can be. And that is what his administration, I think, will stand